Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Alison McConnell, delighted to be joined by Peter Martin and Alan Ruff. Don't forget, if you enjoy this content, to hit the subscribe button and download our app. And also, you sign up to PLZ Premium and you could be in the hat for a fantastic prize, Peter. A couple of tickets to the Champions League final next summer. So don't forget, if you enjoy this content, there's a whole lot more of it on offer. But first things first, Ruffy, Jimmy Thelin, a man under pressure now for you?
Most definitely, I think so. I think Aberdeen supporters had high hopes this year, and it's just not happened. He doesn't seem to be getting the best out of the players, and particularly the new players that he's brought in. So I think the owners have got a big decision to make.
He said this week he'd spoken to Alan Burrows, he'd spoken to the board, he'd spoken to the chief exec. Dare we say it, it's almost the infamous vote of confidence in him, but at some point, Peter, you run out of road.
Yeah, I think we're all of the opinion now that the road ends at Fir Park. It's as simple as that, because if he loses at Fir Park, they've got to sack him. That's the unfortunate situation. 5 wins in 32 games since November of last year is not good enough. When you hear the Aberdeen fans singing "You're getting sacked in the morning," you know there's something wrong. They've fallen out of love with Jimmy Thelin. They're bottom of the table. They've only got 1 point. The statistics alone are damning. It's nothing personal. It's just simply he came in with a philosophy and a style, and teams have worked him out, Ali. Yeah,
he obviously got off to that fantastic start, and then, as you say, from late autumn last year, it fell apart, disintegrated. A Scottish Cup win maybe papered over the cracks a bit, maybe bought a wee bit of time, Ruffy. But do you see this weekend as being definitive now? Do you think patience is stretched?
Yeah, I think so, because obviously the Aberdeen supporters left at the end of the season with that Scottish Cup win. And when you're a supporter and you go away for that, you're looking forward to the new season. And I have to be honest, I know Hearts and Hibs will be there, but the Aberdeen supporters would expect, if we're talking about a team split in the Old Firm, it should be Aberdeen. They always were up there with the players that they had at their disposal. But they're in a stage now. I mean, if you look at last night, the lack of confidence, particularly around about the goal, defending's woeful. So Peter possibly right. He needs to win this one at the weekend.
2 goals that they shipped, but it seems that there's a real there are a lack of leaders on the pitch. There's a lack of direction, a lack of cohesion. Is it just writing on the wall, or is there any way back for him, do you think? If he gets a win at Fir Park, can he start to claw it back? He spent a lot of money, Peter, which the board might be looking at and thinking, well, if he starts to piece it together, it might make sense to stick with him rather than, going back to a blank canvas. You've got a manager who might come in and then want to spend money in January. Or is it the situation that you think, well, actually, we can't afford for it to go on?
No, I think the board will be accused of being negligent, because if you're suddenly changing your ambitions to, I hope we can make it into the top 6, when really Aberdeen should be thinking, we've got to be challenging to try, as Ruffy says, to split the Old Firm, or at least be in there contending the cups, which they're not doing. And you look at what they should have achieved, great chance to get into the Europa League group stages, failed on that count as well. And you look at the overall style of the team, that is the one part of the evidence which is damning. He signed 13 players in the summer. The board have backed him, but the board now need to actually get to the point where they're not going to be accused of letting it drift too much. This is a business. This is where the fans buy into not only the season tickets, but they buy into going away from home en masse to support the team. And what they're witnessing right now is a team that looks disjointed. Remember his formation. He has blatantly stuck with a formation. There's no plan B. It's 4-2-3-1. And he's only changed that formation once, and it was forced on him in the cup final against Celtic, where basically he brought on, I think, through injury, he brought on Nicky Devlin, who then moved to the left-back position, and they kept it tight against Celtic and won it in a penalty shootout. Other than that, they've been able to work them out. There are a few players that maybe, Graham Shinnie, what's he guilty of? Graham Shinnie's only guilty of growing old. He's done his bit and he's had a good career, so maybe he can't be the backbone of the side and drive them on, or the experience. Maybe he can't shout in the dressing room to get a trick out of them. My feeling on it is he can't motivate the players anymore. I think no matter what style or what he does at half time or what he says, Their defending against Dundee United was poor. They can't press the game the way that many of the teams are doing, and they certainly can't pass the ball. Ruffy, I don't know about you, but see the game against Dundee United. I mean, they gave the ball away so many times. You're talking about some players who are technically gifted. My God, one of their players was valued at 10 million a few seasons ago.
Yeah, but they're no different from any other teams. When confidence is low, these players, just like the rest of them, don't play that final ball. They don't want to be the one that's getting caught low, no picking up their marker and losing a goal. So they all go into a shell. I think the signings that he's got, okay, I think the majority have went, correct me if I'm wrong, foreign contingent. I'm not knocking foreign players because a lot of them are very, very good. But it's unfortunate, I think the ones that he's identified don't suit his style of play. Obviously, he's came from foreign field as well. So I just think that, like with Rangers, we lacked the sort of a connection with Rangers. No, Rangers, Scottish players, I think he's fell into the same trap. Okay, he's got Devlin there, you know, and he's
Stuart Armstrong coming back, maybe needed match finish.
Yeah, again,
Stuart Armstrong was the best player, Ali, on the park last night.
But he's maybe just not quite up to speed. You think it could it come together? You mentioned there, like, you can't motivate them. Should a manager in this day and age have to motivate players?
Absolutely. Listen, it's a nonsense to suggest that, you know, top flight players can't take a manager losing the head against them.
It doesn't strike me as a type of guy that's going to win. And
no, he doesn't. But there's a narrative going about now that modern day players can't take, you know, a manager losing the plot against them and picking them out. Believe me, they do. Managers do actually highlight players and say, you're not pulling your weight. Managers also, on the flip side of that, have the ability to go to somebody and say, by the way, you're really special. I want you to go and change this game for us. You're the key to this. And you get players who go out and feel as if they're 10 foot tall.
I suppose that's management. You're tapping into different personality styles. What makes people tick? How do you get a tune out of people, whatever way it goes?
On the face of it, and what we're seeing when he's getting interviewed, you don't see that, do you?
No,
I don't see that. You see he's a very nice guy, there's no doubt about it. He's the kind of guy you probably want to play for. But like Peter's saying there, he doesn't look like a guy who's going to kick somebody up the backside. You know, and even his press conferences, the supporters see these they don't see him charging about the dugout. Yeah. They don't see him being...
that kind of personality.
People, I'm not saying it is happening, but people would look at it and go, well, does he really care? Yeah. He's not getting angry at touch side. He's not having a go at anybody. He's just a nice guy.
Where did it go wrong? This is a guy that when he came in, you know, Aberdeen fans, this time a year ago, you go back and Aberdeen fans are saying, we might split the top two. This is a season where all sorts of possibilities were opening up. They went to Celtic Park, they were 2-0 down, they came back, there was a fight, there was organisation, they had control of games. Where did it go wrong? You mentioned there that you felt as though teams had just worked them out. Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, because you've got to give credit to managers, good managers who look and say to themselves, okay, do you honestly think they just stick with their own players for the whole week and just work on them? They don't. What they have is scouts who go out and watch the next week's opposition and say, right, listen, he plays a back four with two holding midfielders, he plays three in front of that, and then he plays one up front. And then when they're going forward, this is how they like to come forward. Devlin will push on at this side. And then, of course, you know, you've got Shinnie maybe sitting with Nielsen, and they'll wait, and if one goes forward, they'll hold. And then, of course, they like to try and play this press. How can we beat the press? Who's weak on one side that we could maybe exploit that side? That's what managers and good teams and good coaches do. They actually say, right, where are they weak? Where are we likely to get in behind them? And who can we exploit? And very, very quickly, over a period of time from that, winning a run of games, 1-0, 2-1s, getting late goals. I watched them because I was up there and I made a point of going to see Aberdeen and thinking to myself, okay, what is this all about? And remember, by the way, I got it in the neck for suggesting that they should go for a Malky Mackay or a Neil Lennon. Oh, the Aberdeen fans were absolutely pounding me about this. It wasn't the fact that I was thinking I'm going to go for my mates or I'm going to go for somebody who's, you know, a home manager who understands the league. It was just simply, I think Aberdeen needs somebody who's a motivator. I'm not going to mention managers of old because Derek McInnes, over a long period of time, I think brought a stability to Aberdeen, a regular, place at the top end of the table, third or second, when Rangers were out of the league. Won a cup, possibly should have won more when Celtic had what I call the ultimate failure in Ronnie Dyler. They had the chance to do that. We had Tony Docherty in the studio, Ruffy admitted they should have won the league that year, but blew it. It's about somebody that I think it needs to galvanise not only the players but the area. Jimmy Thelin, for me, is not that man. And it's not because of anything personal against him. It's just because the stats don't lie. The way they play doesn't lie. The results doesn't lie. And the fact that he's got a lot of gifted footballers that the board have backed him with and he can't get a trick out of them. They're now in a situation where I don't think they can wait too long before they're actually starting to say, are we going to be involved in a playoff position here? Are we going to be involved in trying to get just out of the bottom six? That's not what Aberdeen should be doing this season.
Yeah, I keep saying at the beginning of the season, the boards have meetings with managers and you sit around the table and you look at objectives. You say, right, there's your budget. With the budget that we're giving you, this is what we expect you to do. He's not ticked any of the boxes. He's failed in every aspect of what I think at that board meeting he's been told to do. So it just depends on how many of that board are going to sit, or particularly the owner, are going to sit and put up with it.
And Ali, he needs Motherwell like a hole in the head.
I was just about to say, Fir Park, who have just knocked him out of the Scottish Cup, and he's got to go there on Saturday night. And it's not just going there, you're now going there under immense pressure. Ruffy, you would have been there as a player before when it's not going well and you sense that players maybe start to go into their shell and you're quite inhibited. What does it take just to get a result, to get anything? And is it too late anyway? Is it the writing on the wall?
That happened at Partick Thistle, that happened at Hibs in particular with Pat Stanton, who for me is an absolute gem, a real guy you want to play for. And when things weren't going well for Hibs, you could see the effect on Pat. But when you're a player, you're sitting in a dressing room and you're looking, when things aren't to happen for you, you're looking all around the dressing room, you've got 11 guys there, and you're looking at individuals who say, well, on his day he could win this for us. On his day he could pull the rest of us. I don't think they've got anybody like that. I don't think they've got not particularly a leader, just a right good player. I mean, last year they had a good striker who was scoring goals, Mayoski, who was pulling them out of a hole left, right, and centre. But that's not happening this year. It's not. You're looking about and. But in a dressing room, it's a horrible feeling when things aren't going particularly well for you. I mean, they're fortunate enough, a lot of their players haven't been at the bottom of the league, but sometimes you're at a team who's at the bottom of the league every year, and you get to know how to deal with it. You know you're going to be there. You know you're going to be bottom three, so what you're doing is you're just looking at games to say, right, we need to take something out of this to get us out of here. But sometimes you're there for the whole season.
Do you think they could go on a run, Ali?
I don't see any evidence that they're capable of going on a run. I just wonder if they maybe try and eke it out to the international break, that you've got another break in a fortnight, it gives you a window of time that you maybe say this is the point where you make the change. I don't see, I've seen Aberdeen only once this season, I will say. I've not seen a lot of them. I've seen them once and I thought they looked rudderless, and I thought they looked like a team in complete and utter freefall.
Yeah, I think if they wait to the international break, then you're in a situation where they're prolonging the agony, because I can't see him going on a run. I don't see the signs in a team that's got enough time, Ruffy, under his leadership to actually get to the situation where you're saying, and the board have to say right now, is he the man to get us on a run of 5 or 6 wins, bearing in mind what they've got coming up? Is he the man to do that? And I don't think he is. And I think by the weekend, they're probably now at this point where Dave Cormack and Alan Burrows are sitting there saying, listen, we're going to have to get a list together. Now is the time for us to get somebody that we think can change our fortunes around quickly, can motivate players, can change the voice in the dressing room, and can change the tactics in the training, so that we've got a clear vision of how we're going to play, and he's not the man.
Stephen Robinson, be your man for it.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, I think Ruffy would, Ali, you, me, countless pundits who come on this programme will suggest names that potentially you're going to get it in the neck. But one thing is for certain, Dave Cormack and Alan Burrows are going to have to hold their hands up and say, listen, the one thing that he's given us is a Scottish Cup. We've got to say thank you for that. Thank you for the memories of it, but we've got to save our season. We've got to start heading up the table, and now is the time for us to make the change, because I don't see them win against Motherwell. I can see them losing that game. I can see them still without a goal. I can see them still with 1 point, and then they're in, you know, you're 6 games into it, and you're saying to yourself,
where's it going?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see him in that Aberdeen support travel.
Make the journey.
I mean, it is. I mean, people forget. I mean, it's a lot. If you're an Aberdeen supporter,
6, 7
every away
hours,
game, away and the time and all that, you know, you've got to be really, really right behind the team. And when your team's not doing particularly well, there's a lot of doubters out there and go, well, we'll just save our money and we'll just stay at the home game.
Or the spray painting the bed sheets.
Yeah.
Saturday. Oh, the converse, of course, of that is last night, Dundee United. You know, Jim Goodwin has got it right. He just signed a new contract at Tannadice. So it's a team that just seem to be going in the entirely right direction. I think, you know, for Jim Goodwin to have had such a torrid time himself at Pittodrie, and then goes in, gets a reprieve and back in at Tannadice.
Jim Goodwin's not the type of guy to gloat. He's not the type of guy who will actually turn around and go, well, hell mend you for getting rid of me. That's not Jim's style. The fact is that at that point, the Aberdeen fans had had enough of him. It wasn't going according to plan. I'll never forget the long walk across Easter Road when, you know, he's sacked and you're walking along a pitch thinking, who's picking me up? You know, is there a car there? Where do I go from here? Never in his wildest dreams did Jim Goodwin think, I'm going to walk right into a Dundee United job, Ruffy. But I'll tell you one thing, you know, from the lessons that he learned there, Jim Goodwin has managed to build a team at Dundee United. I'm not saying they're going to go on to great things, but they're good to watch. I've seen them on a number of occasions this season. They're really good to watch, and they've got a player in the middle of the park that I bet you over the course of this season, Kamara, they'll start to talk about him and say he's worth a look.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to start contradicting myself, because I've already said certain foreigners don't work. But certainly if you pick the right ones, as Dundee United have, and he's scouting very well, and I would say majority of his players that he's brought in from abroad have just ticked the box.
Yeah, he's knitted a team. He's created an identity, and he's bought players that suit the way that he wants to play.
Yeah, listen, they're brave on the ball, but the other thing you've got to give Jim Goodwin credit for, which is he has a style. He's given them a clear message. This is how we want to play. He's got players in that will play not only the way he wants to play, but they're able to dictate things on the park. They're brave on the ball. They've got a style where they can get players who can score goals as well. And I think he's got on the flanks, he's got players that are able to create for him as well. It's not a complicated game at times. You know, if you can get the players in there and you can give them a clear message, and Jim Goodwin's able to do that and he's reaping the rewards of it. I thought they were really, really unlucky not to be involved in Europe. Maybe it's a blessing for him this season, but he deserves all the praise.
Do you tip him for top 6?
Dundee United are in my top 6.
Well, I've got them in my top 6.
Yeah, I've got them in my 6. I don't know where I had them, maybe 5 or 6 or something.
I never had Aberdeen in the top 6. I had Aberdeen in the bottom 6. Did you have them in the top 6?
Do you know, I think I did put them in the top 6.
No.
I think I did. Falkirk and Hibs last night, 2 teams going for it.
Again, you know, you've got to give them credit, you know, for the fight back. They look done and dusted. But for me, I mean, everybody's raving about Hibs, and I mean, I think there's a lot of problems there just now. I think defensively, I mean, everybody raves about the big boy Bashira. I think he's a bomb scare. I think he's always in the vicinity. He's big, he's bustly, he causes problems at corner kicks up in the other end. But in his own box, he can't pick up. He just wants to wrestle, and that's how they got the goals.
He was more consistent last season.
He's a cult hero that the Hibs fans love. But if you are a football aficionado who's looking and saying, okay, where are we losing goals? Who's giving the ball away? Who's likely to make a mistake? For me, it's Rocky Bashiri. And I think the other thing about Hibs that they've got to work out pretty quickly, they're really good going forward. Nicky Cadden's brilliant at firing the ball and best crosser of the ball. But I think sometimes when they bomb on, they're exposed and they have to work out a way to try and keep it tight. But I think he's got a problem in the centre of that defence, Ruffy.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you saw the ball, any ball coming into the box, anybody that's half a yard short sharper than the two centre halves is going to get a
So
bit of joy. You
Ibrox at
saw
the
that,
weekend
you know,
as well.
and then that's the way it is. I mean, yeah, and Bashir is a cult hero, and he's what you want in a player, you know, somebody who fights in battles. But there's more to it. There's more to it. There's defending properly at set pieces.
Okay, well, it's a European week this week. Celtic and Rangers both kick off their Europa League campaigns. Brendan Rodgers was saying he wanted this team to harness the spirit of Sevilla season where they went out of the Champions League qualifiers. I think it was against Bâle. He wants to see that same kind of spirit and go and launch a really positive, deep campaign in this tournament. Do you see any evidence that this is a team capable of that?
Well, they might look at the spirit of Seville, but they ain't got it. It's as simple as that. And the reason they haven't got it is for all the aforementioned reasons in previous programmes that the board have basically let them down. And you can wax lyrical about, oh, they were able to get Iheanacho, scored a penalty. He's no Henrik Larsson. It's difficult to get world-class players like that, I accept that, but he wanted a certain standard of player that could possibly have got a couple of good scalps in the Champions League. They're in, for many Celtic fans, the poor man's tournament at the Europa League, which I think is their level. Anybody that thinks Celtic are going to go on a fantastic run in the Europa League all the way to a final or quarters or semis, I think it's a pipe dream. I don't think they've got the quality. I don't think they've got the creativity. They've certainly got a good player that they've found out about in Tenekti, but everybody was talking about Tenekti and forgetting about all the other players that they've signed that nobody's talking about.
That aren't in the squad.
That aren't in the squad, that are not good enough, that have left Brendan Rodgers exposed. He knows himself. He's had that many thinly veiled swipes at the board. But right now, you've got an unhappy bunch of supporters who are looking and saying, are we going to buy the tickets for it? Are we really going to buy into a tournament we didn't want to be involved in? We didn't deserve to be involved in this tournament. And do we really think we're going to go on a run? Not for me.
That's an interesting point. I mean, I saw they had a magician at their team building night out last week, but these problems and the noise that surrounded the club, it's not just going to magically disappear. I think even yesterday there were still huge pockets of the stadium that had ticket availability and individual match tickets available. There seems to be an apathy and a frustration, obviously, within the support. There was talk about possibly boycotting this campaign. What does it take for that to dispel? Does it go if they have a decent run, or is that something that's going to build and linger across the course of this campaign?
Yeah, I thought you were going to tell me they brought a new signing at the hat.
But, I think that's maybe what they were hoping for.
Yeah, they're like everybody else. They've got to convince the supporters that go on a run. But as Peter said, I mean, I was at the Thistle game. Yeah, they were far, far superior to Thistle. But before that, they hadn't scored goals in a few games. They scored the last goal against Kilmarnock, so they're not going into this game oozing the confidence. Yeah, the new winger boy did look impressive. Let's see what he does against better quality. The new centre forward looks as if he's great. He's back to the goal. He's good at laying it off. He's good at holding it up. But what likes he going forward when he starts getting chances? That's something that Celtic supporters are waiting to see. But winning games, you know, in this particular game, you need to do that again. I mean, I was alarmed. I mean, I know there was going to be protests at the Thistle game, but I didn't imagine it being the whole stand. You know, I thought it was going to be a segment of the stand, maybe the Green Brigade, but it was the whole stand.
It points to a real, like, a mobilisation of the support who have reached breaking point in terms of their patience being tested with certain aspects of a board.
The only way they test the board and the only way they get a reaction out of the board is by not giving them money. It's the only way that the board will understand the anger and the displeasure at the way they're going about their business. Now, you can have £77 million in the bank and you can bleat on about various positives in player sales, and you can throw up smoke screens about UEFA fair play rules. The Celtic fans have had that for such a long time now that they're now seriously looking and saying, well, listen, we can hold up banners, matters not a jot. We can shout, sack the board, matters not a jot. The point that you actually get a reaction is when you suddenly say, I'm not giving you my money. It's the only thing that they understand, because right now this board is hoping that Brendan Rodgers goes on a run in the league, gets a couple of good European results,
Brings
and
the
then
temperature down.
takes the heat out of it, and then they forget. But I don't think the Celtic supporters are forgetting. I think they're looking like the Rangers fans and thinking, right, strategically, how do we mobilise a big enough amount of people, and what actions do we take that suddenly will register with them? And the only register is, I'm not giving you money for your cash register.
It'll be interesting to see what the first game is, the Europa League game, what the attendance is, what the crowd is like, where the patches are within the stadium, because you're so used to watching Celtic run out in the Champions League and you can't buy a ticket for love nor money. So this will give you an indication of the mood within the support, I think.
It just shows you the state that we're in, obviously, with the two of them, with the protests and everything that's going on, that there's a wean of games before this semi-final. With Rangers and
You've
Celtic.
got a month to go.
You've got a month to go and everybody's waiting on it.
It could be
Everybody's waiting on it to see what happens.
It won't be a different Celtic match, but it could be a different Rangers match.
It was just about to say, obviously, Russell Martin get the win over Hibs, which quietened, I don't know if it does quieten it, but it brought it down a bit on Saturday evening. He's got Genk tomorrow night. But again, the protests will continue. I would imagine that you'll still hear an element of the Rangers support making their feelings clear. Do you see any possibility? We've seen big performances from Rangers in Europe, particularly at Ibrox. Do you see them capable of going and maybe easing themselves out of the domestic troubles and going and getting a result? Well,
this present team haven't proved that they can do it. The previous Rangers team proved going away for Europe with the players they had could do it. This new squad haven't. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. But again, he's just game to game as well. You know, every game he loses is going to be a protest.
You expect that there'll still be the same? I don't think there'll be stuff outside the ground, but I think you'll still have pockets within the stadium tomorrow night where you'll hear, particularly if it doesn't go well from the off.
Yeah, there's two differences. The difference for the Celtic protest is they want a change of attitude in the boardroom. They also want a change of people who are operating at boardroom level, because they're not happy with the strategy and the signing policy and the timing of the signing policy. That is a clear message, and it's going to be difficult to change that board because they are in power. It's not a Brian Dempsey, the Rebels have won, because that was a weak board financially. This guy here, Russell Martin, is a guy trying to do his best. He's almost like a Jimmy Thelin, that he's trying to get a bit of momentum that buys him time. And there's no momentum because you can't see a style, and you can't see the players suddenly stepping up to the plate and saying, we are going to try and fight because we understand what it's all about. The Rangers fans have got a slightly easier job than Celtic fans, because basically they can stand outside in even greater numbers, and then they can actually, with their feet, walk away and say, listen, you need to sack this manager because it's not going according to plan.
They also wanted Patrick Stewart sacked.
Well, that's not going to happen because, quite simply, the American owners are looking at Rangers as a long-term business plan, and they've got a clear strategy. So Patrick Stewart's not going to be removed. There's an easier chance getting the manager removed, and sadly for Russell Martin, he gets removed because, quite simply, your eyes don't deceive you. If you don't get wins, you're going to get the sack. Even if the European gets a credible draw or a good win, it doesn't buy him the time. And the desire for the Rangers fans is, by the way, we're paying season ticket money for you to win the league. And you look at the games coming up and you say to yourself, you've got to try and go on a run. Can they see Russell Martin's side go on a run? I'm not too sure. I remain to be convinced, but I certainly wouldn't advocate sacking managers, 11 games into a season. I still think he deserves time.
So you don't think the writing's quite on the wall for him just yet?
Not yet.
Ruffy?
No, I don't think so. Obviously, there's a manner of a defeat you've got to take into consideration. But if the performance is there and they see that there is a performance and maybe unlucky not to get a win. But I mean, as I say, it's game to game for him. It must be a horrible situation to be in. Getting into every game knowing if you get a heavy defeat,
I'm not sure Livingston away on a Sunday afternoon would be relished by too many managers under pressure either.
See if you lose to Genk and you lose to Livingston, the game's up. There's no way back.
And the other thing is the owners here. The owner's sitting watching it now. He
Well,
wasn't here
yeah.
before. He's sitting in the stand. He can see all the protests. He can see what's going on. He's getting I don't know if he walked in when the crowd were there, but he would hear them. So he's taking all this in, you know, and then he'll have to come out with something.
Yeah, okay. Well, just before we go, Lennon Miller scored in his full debut last night, do him a world of good. I think he did 7 minutes or something prior to that, obviously needing a wee bit of time just to bed in culturally, get to know the team, get to know the lay of the land, but that goal will do wonders for him.
Ali, see when the cross come in and then all of a sudden you suddenly see the goalkeeper at one end of the goal and you get a free header into the other corner, you're actually thinking to yourself, this is exactly the start to endear yourself to a set of supporters, and I think the Italian football will suit him, Ruffy.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think the way he played at Motherwell was a style that would suit them. You know, obviously he's got to have the right players run about him, but certainly to score so early in your career is fantastic for a young boy. I mean, he's still a young boy.
You forget as well how much has gone into that move, like how the adjustment of going and learning a new language and a new culture, and of course an entirely new style of football.
Can you imagine the learning curve for a young guy going to play in a different style and culture?
Incredible.
Yeah.
So I think, I think everyone would be rooting for him when you see that goal going in last night. You think, good on you. Anyway, that's all we've got time for. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to click the subscribe button and download our app.